Kamla Das, also known as Madhavi Kutty in Malayalam, she is a major figure in Indian English literature. Her writing is known for confessional style, female desire, marital dissatisfaction, identity, and rebellion against patriarchy. Her full name Kamla Suraiya, pen name in Malayalam Madhavi Kutty, born on 31st March 1934, Punnayur Thrissur district, Kerala, India. Died on 31st May 2009, Pune, Maharashtra, India. She wrote both in English and Malayalam. Kamla Das was born into a literary and aristocratic Hindu Nayar family in Kerala. Her mother, Nalapad Balamani Amma, was a respected Malayalam poet, and her father, V.M. Nair, was a journalist and automobile executive. She spent her childhood between her ancestral village in Punnayur and Calcutta, where her family lived for work. Kamla Das began writing poetry as a child, with one of her early poems published by Pen India at around age 14. At 15, she married K. Madhav Das, a bank officer much older than her. They moved to Bombay and later lived in various Indian cities due to her husband's career. She had three sons, and despite her domestic responsibilities, she continued writing at night. In 1999, Kamla Das converted to Islam, adopting the name Kamala Suraiya, which created significant public interest and debate. She continued writing, including newspaper columns and essays covering culture, politics, and personal reflections. She passed away in 2009 at age 75 in Pune and was buried at the Palayam Juma Masjid in Thiruvananthapuram. Kamla Das is remembered as an iconic voice in Indian English literature and Malayalam writing. Her boldly personal and often controversial approach broke barriers for women writers and brought discussions of female sexuality, identity, and emotional experience into mainstream Indian literature. Major themes in Kamla Das' writing: female sexuality and desire, love and betrayal, identity, womanhood, and social expectations, personal and emotional honesty. Her work often used confessional language and explored the inner life and struggle of women in a patriarchal society. Summer in Calcutta is the first and most famous poetry collection by Kamla Das. This collection established Kamla Das as a bold modern voice. The collection introduced her as a confessional poet in Indian English literature. The poem expressed female loneliness, unfulfilled love, desires for emotional and physical intimacy, urban Indian women's experiences. The poem is written in a free verse. It is confessional and autobiographical in tone. She uses personal experiences in the poem. The title symbolizes emotional and sexual desire, loneliness, and dissatisfaction. Summer in Calcutta is the first and most famous poetry collection of Kamala Das. This collection introduced her as a confessional poet in Indian English literature. Summer in Calcutta is a collection of poems that explore the inner emotional world of modern Indian women. Through deeply personal and honest poetry, Kamla Das writes about love, desire, loneliness, frustration, and the failure of marriage. The poem reveals a woman's search for true emotional and physical intimacy in a society that restricts female expression. Love in this collection is often temporary and disappointing, while marriage appears emotionally empty and oppressive. The title of the poem Summer in Calcutta symbolizes emotional and sexual desire, loneliness, and dissatisfaction. Calcutta is not just a place but a metaphor for emotional barrenness and longing. Summer in Calcutta is the first major confessional poetry collection by an Indian woman. It broke taboos about women speaking on love and sexuality. It marked a turning point in Indian English poetry. Summer in Calcutta portrays the emotional and sexual awakening of a woman and exposes the emptiness of traditional marriage through confessional poetry. The Descendants is the second poetry collection of Kamla Das. It focuses on failed relationship, emotional emptiness in marriage, search for true love. Themes include alienation, love, sexual politics. The title symbolizes people who inherit emotional dissatisfaction in love, women who are trapped in failed love, a generation burdened by loveless relationships. The poem is written in confessional and autobiographical tone, in free verse. The Descendant is the second poetry collection of Kamla Das. It continues her confessional mode and deepens her exploration of love, marriage, loneliness, and female identity. The Descendants presents a series of poems that focus on the emotional emptiness of modern relationships, especially within marriage. Kamla Das portrays love as temporary, disappointing, and often exploitative, where women give more emotionally but receive very little in return. The title "Descendant" symbolically refers to people who inherit emotional dissatisfaction, women who are trapped in repetitive cycles of failed love, a generation burdened by loveless relationships. The speaker in these poems is often a woman who is emotionally starved, longing for genuine affection and understanding. Physical relationships fail to provide fulfillment, leading to alienation and despair. Marriage is not shown as a sacred institution but as a space of emotional neglect and domination, where the woman's individuality is suppressed. In this collection, it strengthens Kamla Das' reputation as a feminist voice. The poem exposes the psychological suffering of women. It continues her rebellion against traditional gender roles. The Descendants exposes the inheritance of emotional emptiness in modern relationships and highlights the woman's search for love and identity. The Old Playhouse and Other Poems criticizes patriarchal marriage. It shows marriage is a space of domination. Women's individuality is crushed. It is written in confessional style. It is a feminist protest poem. The old playhouse is a metaphor for marriage. Themes included in the poem: loss of identity and gender inequality. The Old Playhouse by Kamla Das is a powerful feminist poem that exposes the emotional suffocation of a woman trapped in a patriarchal marriage. The poem is addressed to the husband, who represents male dominance. The old playhouse is a metaphor for marriage, which initially appeared beautiful and safe, but later turned into a prison for the woman's identity and freedom. The speaker recalls how she surrendered her individuality to her husband in the name of love. Instead of mutual respect, she received control and emotional neglect. Her world became limited to household duties, while her thoughts, creativity, and desires were ignored. The husband is portrayed as self-centered and dominating, reducing the woman to a submissive role. Her emotions dry up, symbolized by images of shrinking rooms, stale air, and darkness, showing mental suffocation. She loses her sense of self and feels like a doll or object, and not a human being. At the end, the woman realizes the loss of her identity and expresses a desire to escape this oppressive space. The poem becomes a cry for freedom, individuality, and self-respect. The themes included patriarchy and male dominance, loss of female identity, emotional suffocation in marriage, search for freedom, and self-wood. The poem is in the tone of bitterness, confessional, and rebellious. Kamla Das criticizes traditional marriage that suppresses women and strongly advocates for emotional equality and independence. My Story is the autobiography of Kamla Das. It is a controversial and famous work written in confessional style. My Story is a landmark text in Indian feminist writing. It challenges society's idea of ideal womanhood. It talks about her unhappy marriage and love affairs. My Story is the autobiography of Kamla Das in which she reveals her personal life, emotional struggles, and search for identity in a male-dominated society. The book is written in a confessional and honest tone, breaking social taboos related to marriage, love, and female desire. Kamla Das describes her lonely childhood, marked by neglect and emotional insecurity. Though surrounded by literature, she lacked parents' affection, which deeply affected her emotional development. She was married at a very young age, before she was emotionally or physically mature. Her marriage was unhappy and unfulfilling. Instead of love and understanding, she experienced emotional neglect, domination, and loneliness. This led her to seek affection outside marriage, not out of immorality but from a deep hunger for love and recognition. Writing became her means of survival and self-expression. Though poetry and prose, she voiced women's suppressed emotions, anger, desire, and pain. She openly discusses her identity crisis, rebellion against social norms, and her struggle to exist. as an individual rather than just a wife or mother. Despite criticism and controversy, my story stands as a strong feminist text highlighting the injustice faced by women and asserting a woman's right to emotional freedom and self-worth. My story emphasizes that a woman's life is not meant to be lived in silence or submission. Self-expression is an act of survival.